I want you to picture the standard Hollywood disaster movie. You know the drill.
Mm-hmm.
An earthquake hits, or a building is taken hostage, and it's absolute chaos for maybe 90 seconds. But then
the music swells.
The music swells, the sirens start wailing, the convoy of black SUVs rolls in, the guys in the tactical gear jump out, and you think, okay, the adults are here.
This system is working. It's a very, very comforting narrative. We love that idea that there's a system with a capital S just waiting to save us.
Right. But we're looking at a book today that basically takes that script, lights it on fire, and, well, throws it out the window.
Pretty much. The book is called Integrated Response, a field guide to modern public safety coordination.
Quite a mouthful.
It is. But the author, Christen Shea, she opens with a premise that is honestly a little unsettling. She says that in a real disaster, the response doesn't begin with the dispatcher.
No.
It doesn't begin with a SWAT team.
It begins with you.
It begins with the person standing there, terrified, when the world just breaks. And the gap between that moment and when the pros arrive, that's where survival actually happens.
So we're going to unpack that gap today. We're going to look at the micro, what regular people do in those first terrifying minutes, and the macro.
The big picture, why the massive government systems we pay billions for so often fail to talk to one another.
And we have some heavy case studies on the docket. Pulse Nightclub, 9/11, the MEV bombing in Philadelphia.
Oh, that Philadelphia case study is a tough read. It really, really challenges your assumption of what public safety agencies are even for.
It's unbelievable. But okay, before we get to the disasters, we need to orient ourselves. Who is Christen Shea? Because integrated response sounds like it could be a really dry academic textbook.
Right, written by a professor who's never sat in a patrol car.
Exactly.
But it's the opposite. This is written like a field manual. Shea isn't theorizing from a university. She's a 30-year veteran of law enforcement in Polk County, Florida.
Which is no joke.
No. And her career path is fascinating because she didn't just parachute in as a chief. She started as a part-time file clerk in high school.
That is wild. I was flipping burgers in high school. She was filing arrest reports.
She climbed every single rung of the ladder. Patrol, investigations, community policing, rose all the way to sergeant. She even received a Purple Heart for a line of duty injury.
Wow.
So when she critiques the police or the fire department in this book, she's critiquing her own family. And I mean, literally, her father was a major and her husband is captain.
That context, it just matters so much. It means she has the credibility to say the hard thing.
And she does, right in the preface. She drops a thesis that just stops you in your tracks. She argues that when public safety fails, when people die who didn't need to die, it's almost never because the responders were cowards.
Right. We always want to find a villain. You know, that commander was incompetent or those officers were scared.
Exactly. Shea says, no. The failures come from systems that operate in silos. You have police world, fire world, and EMS world. And they are often built not to talk to each other.
There's a quote in the preface that I actually highlighted. She writes, "When disaster comes, no one rises to the moment. We fall to the level of our training and the strength of our relationships."
The strength of our relationships. That is the core of this entire deep dive. Because a hurricane doesn't care about city limits.
Yeah.
An active shooter doesn't care about agency jurisdiction. But the government cares deeply about those lines. And people fall through the cracks between them.
So let's look at what happens in those cracks. Let's go to Chapter 1. Shea takes us back to June 12, 2016, Orlando. Pulse Nightclub.
2:02 a.m.
Now, most of us remember the news coverage, but Shea points out a specific timeline detail that it just changes how you view the entire event. The first shots were fired at 2:02 a.m.
Okay.
The police breach, the moment they actually broke through the wall to stop the shooter, was at 5:15 a.m.
That is a gap of more than 3 hours.
3 hours? I think the general public just assumes that if you call 911, the police are kicking down the door in 5 minutes.
In a perfect world, maybe. But in a complex tactical situation, no. So the question Shea poses is, what happens in that 3-hour gap?
Right.
The system, the sirens and the lights, was setting up outside. They were establishing perimeters. But inside, the response was already happening.
And this is what the book calls the first responder, or the citizen responder.
It's the realization that if you are physically present, you are the responder. You don't get a choice. You can't just tap out and wait.
And the book breaks this down into 4 specific roles. I found this really helpful because usually we just think
fight or flight.
Yeah, fight or flight. But Shea argues it's more nuanced. The first role she identifies is the communicator.
This is the first clear voice. Think about the environment inside Pulse. It's dark. The music is pounding, there's gunfire, people are screaming.
It's sensory overload.
Absolute sensory overload. The communicator is the person who cuts through that fog.
So these were the people hiding in the bathrooms, texting 911, right?
Exactly. They were terrified, they were whispering, but they were relaying critical data. He's in the south hallway, he's reloading, he has a long gun.
That is intelligence.
It's massive intelligence. The police outside are blind. They don't know the layout, they don't know the threat. The communicator inside is guiding the professional response before the pros even step foot in the building.
And the takeaway is you don't have to be some tactical genius.
No, you just have to be able to observe and hit send.
Okay, so that's information. The second role is physical, the protector.
This role is about creating space for safety. And we have an incredible example of this from the text, Imran Yusuf.
The bouncer.
Yes. He was a bouncer at Pulse, but he was also a Marine veteran. So when that pop-pop sound started...
Right, a lot of people thought it was the DJ.
They thought it was sound effects. But Yusuf's brain recognized it immediately as high-caliber gunfire. His training kicked in. He froze for just a split second, assessed the threat, and saw a door near the staff area. It was locked.
And people were panicking, just getting crushed against it.
Right. So Yusuf didn't try to fight the shooter. He jumped over the panicked crowd, unlatched the door, and kicked it open.
And how many people got out through that door?
Around 70.
70 lives saved. Not because he tackled the gunman, but because he opened a door.
And that's the protector mindset. It's not always about combat. Sometimes it's just about identifying an exit and clearing the path. It makes heroism feel, I don't know, accessible.
Yeah, like, I don't know if I could fight a terrorist, but I could kick a door.
Exactly.
Absolutely. The third role, though, that's the one that intimidates me, the healer. I mean, I faint at the sight of needles. The idea of treating a gunshot wound, I feel like I'd freeze.
And most people feel that way. We think medicine belongs to doctors. But Shea emphasizes that in that gap, you don't need a degree. You need two hands and a decision.
And she tells the story of Joshua McGill.
This is such a powerful one. So McGill is fleeing the club. He's safe. He could have just kept running.
Right.
But he sees a stranger in the parking lot who has been shot multiple times. McGill has no medical kit. He's wearing casual clothes.
So what does he even do?
He takes off his own shirt. He ties it around the stranger's wounds to make a makeshift tourniquet. And then, this is the part that gets me, he lies on top of the guy in the back of a police car to keep pressure on the wounds while they speed to the hospital.
And the stranger survived.
He survived. And
Yeah.
he survived because McGill acted. If he had waited for an ambulance, that man bleeds out. EMS couldn't even enter the hot zone yet because the shooter was still active.
So the healer role isn't about performing surgery. It's just about buying time.
It's about plumbing, basically. Just stop the leak until the professionals can get there.
Okay, and the final role is the witness, which sounds passive, like you're just watching.
It sounds passive, but Shea argues it's an active duty. When the police finally breached at 5:15 a.m., it was total chaos. Smoke, water, alarms going off. They needed to know who was who. The survivors who could say, I saw him go left, or there are 4 injured people behind the bar, they were acting as witnesses. They were organizing the chaos for the responders.
So, pausing on this micro level here, the book suggests we are all potential first responders. But do we need to go to some tactical camp to be ready?
No, not at all. Shea lists simple steps. Learn stop the bleed. It's a quick course. Learn CPR. But the biggest one is just situational awareness. Always look for 2 exits.
I'll have to admit, ever since I read this chapter, I walk into a coffee shop and I immediately look for the back door.
It just changes your mindset. It shifts you from being a potential victim to being a potential responder. It's not paranoia, it's preparation.
Okay, so that's the individual level. Regular people acting heroically with 0 notice. Now we have to flip the coin. Chapter 2.
The system. The macro level.
And honestly, this is where the book gets frustrating. Because while the individuals at Pulse were adaptable and fast, the history of our systems responding to disaster is, well, it's rigid.
Rigid is the polite word for it. Shea transitions us to 9/11. She shares her own memory of watching the towers fall, and she brings up the statistic that we all know, but it just hits hard every time. Nearly 3,000 dead. But specifically, 343 firefighters and dozens of police officers.
And the easy narrative is to say they died because they were brave. And they were. But Shea digs deeper.
She does. She argues that the death toll was higher because the systems couldn't talk to each other. You had police helicopters specifically observing the North Tower. They could see the roof buckling. They knew it was coming down.
So they radioed that warning to police command, and police officers were pulled back.
Right. But the firefighters didn't get the message.
They didn't get it.
No, they were on a completely different radio frequency. The system failed to connect the eyes in the sky with the boots on the stairs. It wasn't a failure of courage, it was a failure of connection.
So the book uses 3 historical case studies to show how these disconnects happen. And I want to dig into them because they're all very different types of failure. The first one, the MV bombing in Philadelphia in 1985.
This is a textbook example of what Shea calls a cross-scale coordination failure.
For listeners who don't know this story, and I really didn't know the details until I read this, it just sounds like fiction.
It really does. You had this radical group called MVE living in a fortified row house in a residential neighborhood. The police wanted to evict them. It turned into a shootout.
So it starts as a police operation.
Correct. But they couldn't get them out. So in a decision that is still baffling today, the police decided to drop an improvised explosive device from a helicopter onto the roof of the house.
They bombed a row house in West Philly.
And, well, unsurprisingly, it started a fire. Now, here is the coordination failure. The fire department was there, they had trucks on the street, they were ready to put it out.
So why didn't they?
Because the police commissioner ordered them to stand down.
What?
The police objective was flush out the gunmen. They thought the fire would force them out. They were prioritizing the tactical police mission over the public safety mission.
But fire spreads.
Exactly. It's a row house. The fire jumped to the next house and then the next. By the time the order was given to put it out, it was an inferno. 61 homes were destroyed. 11 people died, including 5 children.
That is just horrifying. It shows what happens when one silo, the police, has total control and just ignores the other experts in the room.
It's the danger of a single-minded mission. The police saw a fortress to be breached. The fire department saw a neighborhood to be saved. But the system wasn't built to balance those views in real time.
Then you have the second case study. Hurricane Andrew, 1992. South Florida gets flattened by a Category 5 storm.
This failure was different. This was government versus reality. The federal response was incredibly slow. It took days for troops and supplies to arrive. But Shea points out the missing piece.
Which was the private sector.
Right. You had Walmart, Publix, utility companies, local churches. They had warehouses full of water. They had trucks. They were right there. But the formal disaster plan didn't have a way to plug them in.
So you have people desperate for water. And 3 miles away, a church is sitting on a stockpile. But the government doesn't know how to ask for it.
Because of the community exclusion failure, the government assumed they were the only responders. They didn't view the local grocery store as a partner.
Wow.
Shea argues that in a modern disaster, a logistics manager at a retail chain is just as important as a FEMA director. If you don't integrate them, you fail.
It just seems like arrogance. The arrogance of the system thinking, we got this, when they clearly don't.
It is arrogance, but it's also inertia. We build systems for normal days. On a normal day, the government does handle it. But on a bad day, a 9/11 and Andrew, you need everyone. And if you haven't built those relationships beforehand, you can't build them in the middle of a hurricane.
So the third case study offers a bit of a shift. The Oklahoma City bombing in 1995.
This one shows the system in transition. Operationally, the police and fire coordination was much better here than in Philly or New York. They established a unified command early. They were talking to each other.
But there's always a but.
There is. They fixed the command issue, but they ran into the chaos of kindness.
I was so struck by that phrase. It sounds positive, but in the book, it's definitely a negative.
It's a huge problem. After the bombing, people all over the country wanted to help, so they loaded up trucks with old clothes, canned food, blankets, and just drove to Oklahoma City.
That sounds nice.
It comes from a good place. But imagine you are trying to manage a crime scene and a rescue operation, and suddenly 5,000 random pickup trucks clog the roads your ambulances need to use.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Imagine having to pull rescue workers off the pile just to sort through mounds of unverified donations.
It's resource clutter.
Exactly. And the hospitals failed too, specifically in distribution. There was no regional plan, so the ambulances just went to the nearest hospital.
Which means the closest hospital gets absolutely slammed.
100% overwhelmed, patients in the hallways. Meanwhile, a hospital 4 miles away is sitting empty, with doctors waiting for patients who never arrive.
That's the integration piece again. It's not enough just to have resources. You need a brain that connects the resources.
Precisely. So if we synthesize all of this, Pulse, 911, the bombings, what is Shea actually telling us?
It feels like she's redefining the entire word response.
She is. Integrated response means the civilian kicking the door, the dispatcher taking the call, the private company sending the water trucks, and the police commander managing the scene. They are all part of one organism.
And if they try to act alone?
Then we get Philly, we get the failures. The book says the goal is not to respond. The goal is to respond together.
That's a powerful distinction, because we can't choose when the emergency starts. We don't get to pick the day.
No. But we do control how prepared the system is to connect, and the system includes you.
That brings it right back home.
Okay.
I can't control FEMA. I can't control the police radio frequencies, but I can control what I do in those first 3 minutes.
Exactly.
So before we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with a pause and reflect prompt from the end of the chapter. I think we should all actually do this today.
It's a mental rehearsal.
Think about where you spend most of your week. Your office cubicle, your classroom, even just your living room. If the lights went out right now, if you heard that sound right now, which of the 4 roles would you step into?
Are you the communicator? Can you get on the phone and give clear, calm details?
Are you the protector? Do you know where the back exit is? Can you clear a path for someone else?
Are you the healer? Do you have a tourniquet in your car? Do you know how to use it?
Or are you the witness? Can you pay attention when everyone else is panicking?
The point isn't to be paranoid, it's to be prepared. Because as we saw at Pulse, the system doesn't start when the sirens wail, it starts when you decide to move.
2 hands and a decision to act.
That's all it takes.
Christen Shea's integrated response. It's a heavy read, but a necessary one. Thanks for walking us through the chaos today.
Always a pleasure. Be safe out there.
And to our listeners, check your exits. We'll see you in the next deep dive.